Daredevil was a celebrated, beloved Netflix series that was it was not a part of the MCU, but it was a kissing cousin in some ways. They never actually showed any crossover whatsoever other than, a newspaper article hanging on a wall in the background or something like that. And not everything in that Netflix Daredevil universe was great. Okay. Not everything was. Daredevil was great. Punisher was great. I loved all 3 seasons of Daredevil. So when they announced that Charlie Cox was coming in to play Daredevil in the MCU, a lot of people got excited. However, a lot of people had a very mistaken impression that this was the exact same. This was the Daredevil from the Netflix series, and it was not. Charlie Cox was very, very clear on a number of interviews saying, guys, this is a different thing. This is going to be different. It is like the Netflix Daredevil, but it's not the Netflix Daredevil. Even when Kingpin came over in Hawkeye, obvious contradictions between the Kingpin in that and the Kingpin here. They went over it again and again and again. This is not the same thing, but it was going to be very similar. Well, that ain't the case anymore. Because according to a lot of reports and according to some people that I have spoke to, that upwards of just a few months ago, the plan was we still have Charlie Cox's Daredevil. We still got Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. We're even going to bring a couple over pieces, but it's not the same thing as the Netflix series. The Netflix series isn't canon, all that kind of stuff. Well, at some point, I don't know if there was a breaking point where the production of Daredevil Born Again was just not going right. And finally they said, you know what? Let's go back to square one. Let's change our philosophy. Let's take the Netflix series and make it, quote unquote, very loosely canon with the MCU. And so what happened since then? We heard that Daredevil was going right back to square one. They were scrapping what they had. They were going to basically start again. Recently, the Netflix series stuff was added on Disney Plus, although some people read into this meaning a little too deeply, but it was added to the MCU timeline on Disney Plus. And now a huge thing was that beloved characters Karen and Foggy, which were not going to be in the series and be in the MCU, well, according to reports, now they are. This comes from the folks over at Screen Rant who wrote the following. As production gears up to resume on the show, reporter Jeff Snyder, again, back to Jeff again, took to Twitter with the rumor that Deborah Ann Wool's Karen Page and Eldon Henderson's Foggy Nelson would be returning for Daredevil Born Again. You remember that Deborah Ann Wool was very direct in saying, my time as Karen is over. They didn't want me in this new thing, blah, blah, blah. That's because it wasn't the same Daredevil. In response to the rumors, MCU fans quickly flooded social media with celebratory responses to the character's return, yada, 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 and so on and so forth. So now there's another part of that rumor going around that the original plan for Daredevil Born Again was to say that Karen and Foggy had been killed off screen. I cannot confirm this myself, but I can tell you I've been told that that is not true. That it was never the plan to say that the Foggy and Karen characters were killed off screen. Again, I wasn't in the room. I don't know. I'm just telling you, I have been told that that part was not true. That being said, Rob, it's become clear that Marvel has decided to do a complete change of direction with their philosophy of how they're approaching at least Daredevil, maybe the other Netflix characters as well, with going back and starting from scratch with the show. They're now adding it to the MCU timeline. They're now bringing in characters that were not going to be a part of the MCU, that were clearly established characters in the Netflix series. And I've been told by somebody at one of the agencies, not the studio, but at one of the agencies, that a short time ago, Marvel decided to do a complete 180. And they've gone back on that. And what was not going to be the same Daredevil from Netflix is now going to be the same Daredevil from Netflix, with the asterisk of not everything is canon. Okay, now this is what I was told. That while now we're in a reality where we're going to be able to say that this is the Daredevil from Netflix, not everything that happened on Netflix is going to be considered canon. They are going to very Lucasfilm this and pick and choose which things are canon and which things are not. So I've already seen a lot of debate. Well, this has to happen in the MCU because on the Netflix series that happened. And since Netflix is now canon, that means it's part of the MCU. No, not necessarily. They're going to cherry pick. They're going to say certain things are canon, certain things are not. But it is kind of a representation that they've completely decided to change their direction on this. Anyway, Rob, you've heard about all this. We've been discussing this for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And with all the moves and things we see now, how do you interpret it?
Well, you know me, John. From the very beginning, I've said, look, when you bring Evan Peters back as Quicksilver, he's Quicksilver. If you're doing that and then turning around saying the character, what? And I feel the same way about Charlie Cox as Daredevil. As soon as you decide to bring Charlie Cox back, he's the Daredevil that was cast in the Netflix series. You're bringing him back because he was good in that series. He was good in the role of Daredevil. So if you're bringing Charlie Cox in as Daredevil, you can't have your cake and eat it too. The reason you're bringing him back is because the series was good and you liked him, and then to expect your audience to pretend what? That series didn't exist? The whole reason you got him in the first place is because he was good in that series. It's like a causality loop of some kind. So when you're watching him, and how is any audience supposed to, I mean, I understand we're deep ensconced in all this work, but your casual audience that might be tuning in to watch Charlie Cox because they're not like MCU fanatics, but they love the Daredevil show on Netflix, and you come in, the first thing you're going to ask yourself is, wait a minute, where's Foggy and Karen? That's the first thing you're going to ask. And I think they realized, and the same thing with Vincent D'Onofrio. He's Kingpin. Like, you can't say what are you going to put a Hawaiian shirt on him so he's a different Kingpin?
Or As a matter of fact.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what they did. And it's such a bizarre, like, again, I don't know who made that call. But as far as audiences go, it's one of the dumber calls in TV history, because how do you expect to do that? When you made the show Frasier, you can't sit there and go, Cheers is not canonical to Frasier. It's not the same Frasier. It's a different Frasier. The actor's the same. But no one's ever done that until now, and it doesn't work.
Well, I mean, okay, to follow on that analogy, though, what I will say is that the difference is that Cheers was already there, right? There wasn't a Cheers universe and a Frasier universe happening at the same time, right? Whereas there was a Netflix universe going on and a completely separate MCU universe going on. And I would also say that it kind of made sense because Kevin Feige, he has a history of, I can't necessarily give the fans what they want in this one thing because it doesn't jive with what I want, but I can give them a piece of what they want. So he's like, we're not going to have John Krasinski as the new Reed Richards, but I can at least give the audience a taste of John Krasinski as Reed Richards. And I think what their rationale at least the beginning was that, look, what was in the Netflix universe does not flow with what we have going in the MCU.
Sure.
But man, the audience really liked Charlie Cox's Daredevil, and they really love Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. So let's at least bring them back. I'm not saying it was the right move. I'm just saying I could see what their thought process was, but clearly at some point they went, you know what? None of this is working. Let's just make it the Netflix thing. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mando. Mando Whole Body Deodorant is the all-terrain vehicle of deodorants. It goes everywhere. Put it in your pits, package, feet, back, knees, everywhere. Because something all of us guys know is that body odor happens all over your body. So why are we just putting on deodorant in our pits? Mando is powerful. It's clinically proven to control odor everywhere, but gentle enough to use in your sensitive bits too. Just try Mando's cologne quality scents and smell the difference from your underarms to your underballs. And a special offer for John Campea Show audience members, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code and link. Use the code Campea at shopmando.com. shopmando.com. I have been loving using Mando because it goes on smooth, it feels clean, and it leaves me smelling great. Mando is created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated, and it is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. And Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 2 free products of your choice like mint body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And again, as a special offer for John Campea Show audience members, new customers get $5 off a Mando starter pack with the code Campea at shopmando.com.
Right. I look, and I think I get that. I totally understand that thought process. But even when Daredevil started, they made references to the thing in New York.
Oh yeah, they always had that newspaper article.
Yeah, the
in the
Chitauri attack and all that. So, and I understand Ike Perlmutter or whatever was in charge of. He had his TV and Jeff, the writer Jeff Loeb. He was in charge of TV and did some great work. It just seemed bizarre to me from the very beginning. I understood there were 2 competing factions within Marvel, the TV division but it just doesn't. For the audience, I'm thinking about the audience is. I never thought that Charlie Cox was different. If you're showing me, just because his outfit's yellow doesn't mean he's different than, it was such a weird thing to do. And they did this, the Ralph Boner thing too. Evan Peters was weird too. Like, well, it's not really Quicksilver. Then why did you cast the actor that's wearing the same
reason they put John Krasinski in?
But then when they did that, when they put John Krasinski in, they also brought back Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
But he's not the Patrick Stewart from the Fox X-Men movies. He's the Patrick Stewart from
the
animated
live-action version of the animated.
I mean, come on. And these
Multiverse.
I know. But it's weird. And you know what? I'm hoping Deadpool 3 fixes all of that. I hope that he wantonly makes fun of these decisions in the movie. I hope Evan Peters shows up as Quicksilver and Deadpool's like, so, I saw you in WandaVision, so where are you from now, buddy? I hope they do that joke. I hope they do, because I'd love to see it in your face.
The one thing that I'm really worried about, though, when I look at all this, is that by embracing and saying now this is, because it never was before, but now it is. Now this is the Netflix Charlie Cox. This is the Netflix Kingpin now, which it wasn't before. Here's my fear. And this is something I think Kevin Feige's going to have to be worried about and Disney's going to have to be worried about. If they had gone through with their original plan, which is say, this is a new Daredevil and a new Kingpin, we're just bringing back these guys who played those roles great, right? If things went south, the Netflix stuff remains untouched, right? If things go south with this new Kingpin and this new Daredevil, then, oh well, this stuff sucked, but hey, it doesn't impact or affect the way we look at the Netflix series. My worry is that now by saying this is the Netflix, by changing directions and saying this is the Netflix one, my fear is if it goes south, that a lot of fans may start saying, will they ruin the Netflix series? Now I can't look at the Netflix series the same way. Now, I mean, even now I'm like, how exactly does Kingpin get shot in the face and he's perfectly okay? Like, he just got a black eye. He literally just had a black eye from a shotgun or from a gun to the face. How... I don't know how they're going to do it, but we were talking about that before the show started, that will the audience start to complain that Marvel is now ruining the Netflix shows by making these the canon? I don't know.
I think, look, I've always said every franchise is one good movie or TV show away from being back on top. I think it's incumbent upon Marvel to make sure that they've got to put a lot of thought into these shows. I mean, look, I have faith in Kevin Feige. He's a very smart guy. He's been in the industry a long time. He's watched these things develop. He's seen what works and what doesn't. Disney Plus was foisted upon him. They had to come up with 10 times as much things. They didn't have. Now he knows that he has to polish. He has to bring the luster back to Marvel. I don't think he's going to allow. I think the fact that they've completely retooled Daredevil Born Again, they're making these decisions. They're back understanding what they have to do because their core brand was allowing one movie to stand alone and be great and also build upon what came before and set up what was going to come after. And that was the great strength of the MCU. And for almost 30 movies, they did that. They made it's the most successful franchise in cinema history, and I think they've had a little bit of a misstep with the last year or two. I think they're going to move it back on track, and I have total faith in what they're going to do. I really do.
No pressure, Ryan Reynolds. No pressure.
Well, the thing is, he's got to pass because all Deadpool 3 has to do is be great, and it doesn't have to be.
I like how you said that nonchalantly. All it's got to do is be great.
That's
all it's got to do.
Because we'll forgive it. It's trespasses because all it has. Besides being great, it just has to then get Deadpool into the MCU. And that could happen in a post-credit scene. People are like, oh, he's there. What people really want is to see a film that's as good as Deadpool 1 and 2 and wraps up the entire end of the Marvel X-Men and bring them all, tee up the end. I don't know what they're going to do. No idea.
Fingers crossed, man. All right. Guys, question is, what do you think? Do you think Marvel should have stuck with the original plan that it's been this whole time, that this was a new iteration of Daredevil and Kingpin, and so they don't have to be handcuffed to whatever happened in the Netflix series? Or is this the right move in saying, you know what? Nope, we're going to make that part of it, although we're going to Star Wars it a little bit. We'll pick and choose which things will be canon and which things won't. Does that mean Iron Fist is still going to be the Iron Fist that we had? Does that mean we're going to get the Defenders? Is Luke Cage going to come in here at some point? I would love to see Michael Coulter as Luke Cage.
He's the best.
Even though I didn't like Luke Cage season 2 very much, but whatever. What do you think, guys? Whatever you think, jump down into the comment section and let us know. All right. By the way, I love seeing some people in the live chat trying to justify the Kingpin thing. But John, somebody said, Kingpin was in hospital for like 5 months. If you get shot in the eye with a gun, ain't gonna take 5 months for it to just heal back up and you're gonna be okay. And then Kingpin's just walking around styling and profiling, limousine riding, private plane flying. No, ain't gonna be none of that stuff.
What is it, 8 Mile?
Woo! He's dead. He's dead. Not 6 months in the hospital. He's dead. Anyway.
We should do a freestyle John section in every show. That was pretty good.
Now, that wasn't 8 Mile. That was some Ric Flair there for you. Hey, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.